The scariest thing in a matrimonial relationship is the D word. The D word, that is the divorce, may have many reasons or triggers. But one thing is for sure, none of the partners come out of it as winners. And it is painful, both emotionally, physically, and financially. But how does this process pan out? And to understand the pain-enduring process, we have with us Meghna Mishra, partner Karanjawala Co, to talk to us about divorce and what one should do to have an amicable solution to this problem. Thanks, Meghna, for joining us.
My pleasure.
So my first question for you as a divorce attorney for almost 2 decades is what sort of cases have you come across in your career? You can talk about some of the most bizarre and heart-wrenching ones.
I think one of the most bizarre ones would be an instance where the wife felt that her husband was trying to show her in a financially lower position than him because he surprised her. She had, I think, booked a Wagoner or a smaller car, and then he booked a sedan for her. And believe it or not, that was the trigger point of a huge series of fights that erupted over the next few weeks. And ultimately, the couple did divorce. Increasingly, I find even the wet towel can be the starting point of a fight. And if that escalates and there is physical violence, and it just keeps getting uglier. So really, it's difficult to say what happens in the marriage, but the trigger could be anything as bizarre as this. I think one of the most heart-wrenching, and another one that I want to share with you, which was extremely bizarre, and which actually took the entire gamut of how, the law plays out, is the husband actually abducted his own daughter and went out from the jurisdiction of the country and went from one country to the other, just to ensure that the mother is completely broken and heart, and then she had to, of course, move lots of move by way of writ petitions, etc., to, trace the child, etc. So I think, in like you rightly said at the beginning, no one really wins in these matters. Everyone loses. But unfortunately, in divorces, you see there are egos and there is a lot of pain and hurt by one or both sides. And so, you have to go through the entire process. And eventually, of course, parties may come to a settlement. But the journey that the parties have to live through get really ugly.
So, if you have to say what are the main grounds of divorce that you have seen, one more question that I'll try to add to that is it more like a tier 1 city phenomena, or do you see more cases like this coming in tier 2 or tier 3 cities?
In terms of grounds of divorce, the most common one that you see, and that one that you already mentioned, is the one that is loosely called cruelty. Now, cruelty could be a physical or a mental. Then there is adultery. So if one of the parties is having a relationship outside of the marriage, then that can be a ground for your divorce. Then you can have desertion if one of the spouse has left the matrimonial home, and has for a continuous period stayed away for 2 years, for example, under the Hindu Marriage Act. These are the grounds that you normally see. There was a time when people were converting and changing religion, but you don't see all of that much now. These are the three mostly which you
because of the Special Marriage Act, you see?
There is also a Special Marriage Act, which is usually between parties who come from two different religions. So if it's a marriage between a Hindu and a Christian, or a Hindu and a Muslim, and you don't want to convert or change religion, so then you marry under the Special Marriage Act. And even otherwise, people from the same religion, a lot of people are opting for that process, because also now, you have to mandatorily register your marriage. So in the Special Marriage Act, it gets registered in any case.
And what about the Hindu Marriage Act? You have to register a Hindu.
You need to register your marriage.
Ideally, you need to register.
Yes, you need to. See, in the cities, what has happened is women are a lot more financially independent. And so there is an element of choice there, of leaving the house, of not, of having a place to go to. Yeah. Unfortunately, in the smaller cities or in villages, it's still something that is looked down upon, which is not to say that there is no element of cruelty or wife beating. That is still there and it's rampant. But the number of divorce cases, as I have seen, and let me share this with you. When I had started doing this practice about 20 years ago, it used to be on the list 1 or 2 matters in a court on a daily basis. Now we have dedicated family law courts.
Okay.
So, and several of them on a day. So that's how much, how many fold this has increased. So in the cities, yes, huge increase, but I see that even there is a trickle down into other cities, and people even in the villages, I would say, or the smaller cities are definitely more alert. And now everything is on the internet. There will be people who are able to click on to, for example, this video and just hear what are your rights, what can you do. So you have that access more easily, and therefore you can make an informed decision.
One of the reasons I want to do this, and we want to do this, is to show the financial cost involved in it, and especially from the point of view for the women. So if you can tell us how much time does it take for any divorce process to get through, and do you see in most of the cases the process is very hostile, that they don't want to come to a settlement in between, or they just go to the court and the court gives the decision? Which part do you see more?
So in our system, there is a compulsory requirement that when you go, if I file a petition for my client and the other party is also there will be a court process of mediation, which is compulsory.
This is compulsory.
This is compulsory.
Okay.
So even if you have not done the mediation on your own, and it is something which I highly recommend, because to answer your question of how much time it takes, if 2 parties come to an agreement on how will we go forward, okay, we both want a divorce, we are not going into the area of who did what, but here is the financial split, and this is how we'll divide our custody. If you're coming to a broad agreement on that, you can get a divorce even in India in as little as a month and a half. This is because although our act provides for a 6-month cooling period, so the way it is envisaged in the act is there will be a first motion, 6 months waiting period, and a second motion. But the Supreme Court, and after that, which has been followed now consistently across, is on the discretion of on the basis of an application that you file. My first motion is allowed. I file an application saying that I need a waiver of the 6-month period, because by now I have already exhausted all remedies. There has been family, friends, mediation, everything has done, and there is an irreparable breakdown of the marriage. And if the judge agrees with you, he waives that 6-month period.
And both the parties have to.
Both the parties are. This is by way of this is in a mutual consent divorce. But where it is contested, it could be anything. It will largely depend on how much, how busy is the court, what are the unfortunate delay tactics parties adopt. And we also have to go through the whole trial to prove there is evidence. I have done a matter which went on for 18 years.
18 years.
And after 18 years, it didn't come to a conclusion. There was a settlement because parties were tired.
So, I want to talk to you about how a woman should prepare herself. First of all, before she goes to the court, what should be the checklist for her that she should make first to apply for a divorce? And second, adding to that question, most of the women, unfortunately in India, are not financially independent. So to be financially independent post this separation, what are the things that she should keep in mind? So if you can give us the checklist for both, that'll be great.
There isn't a hard and fast checklist as such, but here are some of the things that you must keep in mind. One, of course, is that right from the time that your marriage has been fixed, there is a concept of stridhan, which is all the jewelry and gifts that are given to you at the time of marriage. Keep the receipts, keep the photographs of those, so that later in time, in the unfortunate event of a divorce, you can at least show, and because we are in a court now, so you need to prove that this is the stridhan that came. And so this is the X amount that I have as my Stridhan, which belongs to the woman exclusively.
And Stridhan is the jewelry.
Is the jewelry, the gifts, whatever comes to you at the time of marriage and after. So the whole concept was, this was to give the woman the comfort that you also have some assets, something which is exclusively yours. So that is one aspect of it. Don't dilute that to buy a joint household.
Okay.
Keep that away. Second, over a period of time, and you would know if your marriage is going downhill. You will sense it. It's usually not an event that takes place overnight.
Yeah.
So if you know that things are looking a little dicey for you, start putting away money, whatever little that you can, because the process is a little time consuming in our country. But that said, we have a lot of statutory provisions which provide for maintenance for the woman and the child. So she is entitled to house, she is entitled to monthly maintenance, she is entitled to live broadly the same way as she was living. Supposing, she has to leave the house. So she has the right to be maintained in more or less the same way. So the court takes into account the status of the parties, the lifestyle, etc. Also, one very good thing which has happened over the last few years, pursuant to a Supreme Court judgment, and earlier, there were these detailed affidavits that are now being filed of financial assets of both parties simultaneously in every such matter, where you can't really hide your assets, which used to be a huge insurmountable task for women. How do you show what your husband makes? If he's in a partnership, you don't know what he's making, you don't know, you may not have access to the tax filing. So those difficulties have now been really addressed by this requirement of filing this detailed affidavit.
That might be easy if you are a salaried person, but what happens if there is somebody's business and most of it is in cash?
Here's what the court takes into account. What is the car that you're driving? What are the kind of holidays that you've taken? What is your lifestyle? And if it doesn't match up, so supposing you're driving a Porsche and you're going for overseas vacations and you're going to come to court and say, oh, but here I have only 50,000 rupees. It doesn't match up. And so the court will and has the power to go deeper into it and to ask you. And say, for example, and this is very common in business families, the husband has nothing to his name.
Okay, yeah.
Right? So in terms of assets, everything belongs to the in-laws. But the court will take into account what is his role in that business, if it's a family business. So the status of the parties determines that.
Okay. And what happens while this process is going on? You said one of the cases was for 18 years. So how would that woman kind of...
So you have provisions for maintenance during the pendency of the case. So of course it allows even a husband to actually ask.
So the woman is earning more?
If the woman is earning more, or the woman is earning and he's not.
Okay.
But normally speaking, there is a requirement and expectation that the husband, if he is able-bodied and of an able mind, that he has to maintain the wife. And so the wife has the right, like I said, to the household. She has a right to the maintenance. She has a right for the children to be maintained as well. So, and there are other acts apart from Hindu Marriage Act. There is the Adoption and Maintenance Act. There is CRPC, which provides for maintenance. There is Domestic Violence Act. All of these provide for maintenance of the wife. So you can build a corpus. Of course, if I have got a large chunk from one court, if you filed simultaneously these other petitions, it will be taken into account. It's not like out of 4 from everywhere you will get 25 lakhs each. Yeah. So the court takes into account what have you got from the other proceeding. But all of these proceedings are there and they don't take that much time. These are much faster. But that said, it's not immediate, which is why I said you must keep away some corpus.
Yeah. We have talked about, women having financial stability. One question that comes to my mind, and since you've talked about Stridhan. So if you're saying that you have the Stridhan and you're filing for a divorce and you're also getting, money from your husband's side to maintain the household for that time, does that woman still have rights on his father's property?
So this act, the Succession Act, was amended in 2005. So what happened after that is that very clearly now there is no grey area here. Women are entitled to a share in their parents' property.
Parents' property.
Yes.
Ancestral, or is it
both?
Both.
Both.
Okay.
So self-acquired, of course, the parents can also will it to somebody, which you can't challenge. But supposing someone dies, what we call it's when you don't make a will, it's an intestate. So he's passed and there is no will. So the woman, the daughter, will have a share in that, equal to that of the brother. But you also must keep in mind that what is the time when you get this from your parents?
Parents, right.
So that is only upon their demise or
when we are trying for a
yes. So it's not something
partition.
Which is in your hand.
Yeah, exactly.
Immediately.
So many times you see people have joint property, joint bank account, and many people are nominees for the LIC, the mutual fund, and everything. So if a woman is going for a divorce, what should she do before she gets into this position about these papers? Because everything and everywhere she has the name of the husband.
So of course you can change all of those. If supposing I have a policy and the husband has been named as the nominee, now I'm going through the divorce, you can change that. But earlier the fear was this, that parties used to transfer assets because the marriage is not going well. But now you can't, because the affidavit also takes into account all transfers done in the preceding years. Okay. So you can't sort of hide things under the carpet ki I don't have anything. It comes out. And that's the beauty of this whole judgment, which has this detailed affidavit.
And another thing, the annual income statement.
So annual income, balance sheet, everything, your LIC policy, everything comes out. So it is very, very unusual that you will have a business which is thriving, but you will have no policies and nothing to your name.
What is an alimony? How is it decided? And how is it calculated for all of this?
So, alimony is basically akin to the maintenance only. Maintenance is the word that we use for during the pendency, and alimony is when, at the end of it. So, there are two ways. So, a court could direct a one-time amount or monthly, depending upon what is in the hand of the husband. So supposing he does not have a corpus for a one-time settlement, then you would need to do a monthly payout system. So
this goes on till
either she remarries or
okay,
unless you can agree that it's for X period. But this will go on, and of course the provision is there that in case there is a new development of fact, or he loses his job or something, you can always just go back to court. Or suddenly he becomes a Birla or Ambani, then I will go back.
Okay.
And I'll file for my client saying, okay, now his financial status has increased, or my child now needs to go to college, and this paltry sum of 20,000 is not going to see him to college. So I need more. So whatever it is that has happened in the interim.
It's in your husband's favor to get a full-time settlement.
It's actually in the favor of both, because what also happens, and I have to be very candid about this, is that there is a order of the court. You have to pay now your wife 20,000 a month. You may pay it for 2 years and then stop. Now the wife has to again start going to court.
Okay.
He has stopped paying, and so you don't really have a closure in that sense.
Okay.
So that is why my advice always is that if you can have a one-time settlement, maybe a little less, try and go for that one.
Okay.
Because it brings a closure, it enables you to restart your life. It may allow you to, if you in times to come, you find someone you want to settle down with.
And once you settle down with someone else, this whole divorce thing?
No, it becomes a little tricky if there are children. So there are cases where that alimony amount needs to continue.
Okay.
For a certain period.
Till the time the children are above 18?
No, there are also cases beyond 18, because like I said, college, for example, typically is after 18. But the child can't fend for himself. So the court takes into account, and it's a very vibrant thing,
But there's so many ifs and buts involved.
So
it's always good to go for a clear-cut, out-of-court settlement.
Absolutely, and put your ego aside, try and have a divorce by mutual
and start afresh.
And take a clean break.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about the custody of the child. How do you ensure you get a fair share for a child's upbringing?
So there again, I would think women are better placed because they are the primary caregivers, and until the husband is able to show that she's unfit mother, and unfit not because she has a slight temper or wakes up late, not that kind, but unfit, is an alcoholic or is on drug abuse and therefore completely incapable of being a mother. In those scenarios, normally custody of young children may be given, but normally the norm is that it is with the mother, and child is always also asked beyond a certain, and typically around after 7 years there will be a chamber hearing and child is asked where the comfort is, which parent do you want to live with, because more and more we find now with women also working, there are instances where the husband and the wife are both pitching in very similar and playing very similar roles in their children's life. So the child may be more comfortable, or there may be a scenario where the dadi is the primary caregiver. So in those scenarios, court will take that into account as well. But you can apply for, and you will get a visitation. You will get shared holidays. You will get shared weekends. You can, you have to, of course, make that effort to stay involved in the child's life, because typically in a divorce scenario where the child is living with the mother, there is also a fair amount of brainwashing, etc., which is done. So to counter all of that, very quickly you need to start applying for visitation and to ensure and explain to your child that you want to be and how much the child is loved by you, etc.
Okay.
So I'm saying even during the interim, while you're fighting with your spouse, stay in touch with your child, and that becomes easier and easier as the child grows in years.
We have talked about this law. Does it apply similar to all the religions, or is there a major difference in the religions?
There is a huge difference, and so
we have talked mostly from the
Hindu Marriage Act, and similar provisions are also there in the Divorce Act, which applies to Christians. Then the Special Marriage Act is more or less similar to the Hindu Marriage Act, which these acts take into account and give more or less both man and woman some sort of a gender parity is there. But I can't say that about all the other common, personal laws.
Okay. But do you think a uniform civil code where, it is codified, the divorce is codified, the marriage is codified, the adoption is codified, everything is codified. Do you think a uniform civil code in this context, it would be a good thing, a better thing?
Yeah, I think it would be a welcome thing because, of course, it's a very complicated issue, that said. But the reasons why I would welcome it. Number one, it can bring gender parity. Number two, it will be virtually impossible for a myriad of reasons that, if you now today start trying to reenact and correct the religious reasons why certain provisions are there, it may not ever happen. So I think if the UCC comes through, and it'll just unify everybody, it may bring a more national character to the entire country. And it's something that even, Supreme Court has time and again said that it needs to be done.
Yeah, but they haven't come up with any draft yet.
Yes, but some of the states have, of course, said.
But how is it going to work if the states have a different policy and somebody...
No, I am hoping that it will come through. I would welcome it. Of course, there are issues here because, for example, Northeast, the Muslims, they have protested.
Mm-hmm.
And there are, the tribals in the Northeast, for example, there are protections that have been given. Mm-hmm. Even in the Hindu law, the customs which are there are recognized by law and are protected. So, this is broadly the law. But if there is a custom, for example, just marrying your maternal uncle, for example, or, in the Punjab.
In Tamil Nadu, right? Yes.
Yes, I think also in Andhra. So in Tamil Nadu, Andhra, that is an accepted norm, a customary practice. Yes. But that if I say that For say Punjab, that's not acceptable. But in Punjab, there is a practice of supposing, your husband passed away and he had a younger brother. It was expected that the younger brother would marry the bhabhi.
Yes.
And that was a customary thing that was acknowledged. So all of that can be sort of done away with, and you'll have this parity.
Parity, yeah.
And I would welcome that.
We have talked about the laws, the rules, how one should go about it. Can you please tell us, if you want to, what is the cost involved in getting a divorce? I'm quite sure based on the lawyer, but
yes,
let's say for a middle class, I'm talking about 8 to 20 lakh rupee people.
So it will depend on which lawyer you go to. But to save your time, energy, money, again, go for a divorce by mutual consent if both parties want a divorce. Put your ego aside, do, for as little as 21,000 rupees, you can go to the mediation center of the Delhi High Court, which helps you to, because the two of you cannot now sit in the same room and discuss how to go about it. They help you.
Okay.
They help you arrive at an agreement. So you have that in hand. Once you have the agreement...
This is like in every state and...
Yes, and even the district courts have mediation centers.
Arbitration, is this...
So the act is the Arbitration and Conciliation Act.
Okay.
So what you get...
Out of court settlement.
Out of court settlement, you can arrive at with your spouse, which will have all the future, way set out, which is how will we divide X property, who gets the car, what will the visitation look like, but you have so much jewelry, but you have so much mutual funds, and how are we going to divide all of that? So you do all of that. You have this painting, I have this car, whatever it is, this holiday home, all of that. So you divide it through this mediation, and then you go for the divorce by mutual consent. You can hire just one lawyer. And that could be as little as 5,000 to 35 lakhs, whatever, So depending upon your budget, you engage that lawyer. Typically, in 5 to 6 hearings, this will be done.
Is there another way for people who don't have that
absolutely.
much money?
Yes, no. So if you don't have the money, the legal aid is provided to you. So your lawyer will be free of cost.
Okay.
So, and these are good lawyers with good practices.
And where can one find them?
No, so you tell the court that I can't afford. The court will just refer your matter to the legal aid society, or even before you start, you go to the legal aid. So every court will have a center or a designated room where you could go, and you can say, I don't have the money. They'll appoint a lawyer who will work with you.
Okay.
And so if someone doesn't have the money, this is a route open to you.
Okay.
So legal aid is definitely a very good option.
So
for those
that's
who
how
don't
you
have the
save
money.
the money, through legal aid and mutual consent divorce, and through mediation, right? These things are the thing. So I hope you guys like this video, and we'll try to see the men's perspective also in our next video. I would like to really thank you for giving us so much dope and insight on this very tricky topic. It was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you.